Rain streaked down the glass, turning the CN Tower into a blurred pencil point above the city. The boardroom hummed with the low anxiety of expensive suits and blinking speakerphones. A tray of untouched pastries sat askew. A red digital clock on the wall read 0957. Three men spoke French into their lapel mics in the hallway, their voices warm and fast. The translator was supposed to be here. She was not. Adrian Park stood at the end of the table, his hands already clasped as if to pray. His mouth was dry. The agenda slide glowed blue behind him. Ontario and Quebec supply chain harmonization. Phase I. His mind ran ahead, then tripped. 4 pages of terms he needed to present in careful French. 4 pages that would decide if his company could breathe or be sold for parts. Victor Lang, the CFO, sat on the side with his tablet face down, a slight smile like a secret he enjoyed alone. The door opened, not the translator. A girl with a red scarf knotted at her throat peeked in. A mop bucket squeaked behind her. She took 2 steps in and lifted her chin. "You lost your words," she said. "You can borrow mine." For a second, the wind hissed against the glass louder than the adults. Adrian blinked. "Excuse me," he said. She wrapped the scarf tighter. It was frayed at the edges, with white stitches that looked like a constellation a careful hand had threaded by memory. She pointed to the flashing line on the console. "They are asking to begin. They said we start at 10 sharp. Are you ready, Mr. Park?" You didn't reply. Victor's smile unclenched. "Where is your mother?" he said. "Working," she said. "I can help for a minute." Adrian glanced at the clock. 0959. The hallway French got closer. He could hear the sound of rain shaking off coats. "What is your name?" Adrian asked. "Zoe," she said. "I am 8. "You speak French." She gave him a simple look like he'd asked if water could be wet. "In our home," she said, "and at school and with my aunties." Victor leaned in. "This is inappropriate. We'll reschedule," he whispered. "They came from Quebec City," said Adrian, feeling his heart pick up. "We can't reschedule." The red light on the console blinked steady. He pressed the button. "Bonjour, say Adrian," he said into the speaker, and his tongue felt clumsy. "Excuse me, our translator is delayed." "News Commensons," said a warm voice. "News Avons on Horaire Serré." Zoe slid closer. "He said they have a tight schedule." Adrian looked down at her. The scarf's edges brushed his sleeve. "Stay with me for 2 minutes," he muttered. "Just help me start. Then your mom can, I'll help," she said. He felt the room tilt into a new angle. He nodded to Victor, who did not nod back. "Bienvenue à North Star Logistics," Adrian said slowly in English, then glanced at Zoe. She translated in a clear, careful voice, the kind that stops panic at a door. "Bienvenue à North Star Logistics," she said. "Nous sommes heureux que vous soyez ici. Monsieur Park put répondre vos questions en anglais. Je peux traduire." A silence on the line. Then a small laugh, like a chair sliding into place. "Très bien," said the warm voice. "Merci, mademoiselle." Zoe tucked the scarf into her coat as if it mattered. It did. They began. By 1012, the initial questions were done. 2-minute help had stretched to 10. Zoe did not falter. She paused to keep meaning clear, not to show that she was 8. She didn't rush. Words landed on the table like dishes set down, quiet but solid. Adrian's chest stopped buzzing. He heard himself think again. He walked the Quebec team through a simple timeline through 3 cardboard mock-ups of cold chain containers. When he ran out of French nouns, he looked at Zoe. When she reached for a term she didn't know, she used simple ones that meant the same thing. "Camions, les camions gardent la température." "Truck, yes," he said. "Refrigerated trucks keep the temperature stable." She nodded. "Restore froid," she said. "Stay cold." There was a pause on the line. "Say Claire," said the warm voice. Clear, Victor finally spoke. "We can hire a professional translator," he said into the air and hit mute on his tablet. He typed a message that nobody could see. His jaw was tight now. At 1023 the door opened again and a woman in a blue jumpsuit, hair tied tight, eyes tired but bright, stuck her head in. She saw the room, the girl, and her lips pressed in a line of surprise and apology. "Zoe," she said softly. "2 E's Isai, I told you to stay by the elevators." "I'm helping," said Zoe. Myril Baptiste stepped all the way in. She carried the smell of lemon cleaner and rain. There was a patch of darker fabric at her shoulder where the jumpsuit had absorbed water. She looked at Adrian, then at Zoe, then at the console. "I will be 1 minute," Adrian said to the voice in Quebec. "We lost our translator this morning. We have a bright helper." "On comprend," said the voice. "Mais envoyez les modifications en français d'ici vendredi d'excepturas, sinon on doit passer." He looked at Zoe. By Friday at 5, she translated, or they passed to someone else. The red light went dark. The screensaver returned, a picture of a truck at dawn somewhere west of Sudbury. The room exhaled. Myril set the mop handle against the wall, the rubber tip not quite steady. I am sorry, she said to Adrian. I bring her to school usually. Today is closed. Teacher day. My cousin was late. She was remarkable, Adrian said. He looked down at the girl. Thank you. Zoe lifted her face to him with an ease that made something inside his ribs soften and hurt. It was the look of someone who had seen adults break and learned to steady them anyway. You forgot to breathe at the beginning, she said. You breathe loud when you are scared. Victor stood. We need to regroup, he announced. We should also discuss protocol. This is a publicly traded company. Myril's hand went to the scarf as if to tuck her daughter back inside it. We will go now, she said to Zoe. You did enough. Adrian's phone buzzed in his pocket. A calendar alert. Board check-in Wednesday at 1600. Another back-to-back. Press rumors from corporate communications. He looked at Myril. Wait, he said. May I get her hot cocoa? The conference was long. We have biscuits. He realized he was asking permission, felt how that was right and new. Myril hesitated. She glanced at the mop bucket, at her flat shoes that had never seen this side of the building. Then she nodded once. Oui, she said. Cocoa can be good. The executive pantry was easy to miss, a door with frosted glass that whispered open into a nest of small comforts. The machine hissed. The city blurred and brightened as the rain thinned. Zoe cupped the paper cup with both hands like it was a small animal that trusted her. Thank you, she murmured, then took a careful sip and winced. It is hot, she smiled anyway. Hot is okay. Adrian leaned against the counter. The cups had the company logo, a star pointing north. He remembered a time when such small ordinary things had made him happy to build something. A time before the accident at dusk on the 401 18 months ago that had taken his wife and left the house too quiet. A time when rain had just made the city smell good, not like an old hurt. He looked at the girl's scarf. That's a brave scarf, he said. It is red so cars can see me, she said. My mom says a scarf can make you not lost. He didn't have a scarf. He had a tie that choked when he forgot to breathe. Do you always help like that? He asked. When people forget their words, she said, simple. Adults do that a lot. He almost laughed, then he almost cried. The space between those two was a razor he had walked for a year and a half. Myril stood in the doorway, a hand around her elbow, tired but steady. Mr. Park, she said, we will not bother you more. You didn't bother me, he said. You saved the call. He turned to Zoe. We have to send a French addendum by Friday at 5. It is a lot of words. Words do not scare me, Zoe said. Numbers are bossy. Adrian looked at the cocoa cup, trembling slightly in her small hands. He wanted to set things down that were heavier than cups. I'll walk you down, he said. If you'll let me. We can go, said Myril. You are busy. He thought of the red light on the console, of Victor smiling, of the rumor mill filling with talk of North Star being sold by month-end to Redwood Capital if their share price dipped below actual. He thought of his board, who loved results. A thought came that was not strategy. It was a promise he found himself making before he could measure it. I'll stay, he said to Zoe, though it was to both of them, though it was to himself as well. I'll stay until your mom's shift ends. You can sit in my office if you want. We have a couch. I don't want you sitting in a hallway. Zoe looked up. Her eyes were not big in the movie way. They were clear in the way of water you can see to the bottom of. She held his gaze. Promise, she said. He felt the word move through the room like a small bell. Promise, he said. Back in his office, Adrian showed Zoe the view and the couch. She put the red scarf on the arm like a person would sit there later. He cleared a space on his desk and opened the French documents. He pulled the binder Victor had given him that morning, labeled Quebec RFP Amendments V3. A dated printout paperclip to it, 2025-03050814. Zoe slid a cookie across the desk toward him. You should eat, she said. Adults also forget that. He bit the edge. It tasted like coconut and something that had lived in a jar too long. He ran his finger down a paragraph. He had enough French to feel its shape without hearing every note. He mumbled syllables. Délai Livracin. Zoe leaned over, cocoa in one hand, reading without moving her lips. Her hair smelled like shampoo and rain. This one is weird, she said, tapping a line. The number is wrong. Which number? He said. The article, she said. 4 becomes 6, then 8 disappears, then it goes back. Adrian bent. He felt heat rise in his cheeks and didn't want to think it was embarrassment in front of a child. He traced the clauses, 4.2, 6.1, 6.2, then 9.1. Labeled in French with a careful font. Maybe they updated the structure, he said. Zoe shook her head. She spoke slowly, teaching him the way she had taught him to breathe minutes ago. Look here, before they said dernier daylight with a hat on the E. Daylight, now there is no hat, it is just a lie. My teacher says hats matter. She added, also, here is tiny ghost writing. She ran her finger across the bottom margin. Like from a printer, see, he squinted. A faint watermark bled into the fiber of the paper, a slanted R nested in a square. If he tilted it, the light caught a pattern. Redwood, he said, the word falling out like a stone he had just found in his pocket and did not remember picking up. My mom prints her schedule sometimes, Zoe said. The printer downstairs puts dots that you can see if the light is right. This says not your printer, it is a different one. He looked at the date on the corner of the printout. 2025-03050814, Wednesday. Printed upstairs, the copy said. He turned the page. The watermark came back, faint, like a stain you couldn't lift. Where did this come from? He said to the empty air. Maybe the R is for wrong, Zoe said. He smiled, then didn't. He stood up too fast and the chair bumped the floor. His office was all glass and quiet and suddenly felt like it had pores. He hit the intercom. Sienna, he said when his legal counsel answered. Can you come up? Bring a magnifying glass if you own one, and coffee for me and cocoa for a friend. Sienna Cho arrived with a print tech from downstairs who looked like he loved paper the way some people love cars. They bent over the page. The tech held up a small UV pen light he seemed to have for no bureaucratic reason. That's a printer signature, he said. Every commercial printer scatters it on the page. That pattern is not from our fleet, and that watermark, I've seen that brand used by third-party firms. We don't own it. Sienna tugged her hair behind her ear. Who gave you this binder? Adrian looked at the spine. The sticker label was from their own supply room, his own assistant's handwriting. He closed his eyes for a second and saw Victor's tablet and his secret smile. Victor, he said quietly, this morning, right before the call. Zoe watched him and then did a small, wise thing. She pushed the red scarf toward him. He touched the edge like it might shock him. It helps when you have to tell the truth, she said. You can hold it so your hands don't shake. He looked at his hands. They shook. Sienna said, we need to check the server logs. If any revisions went out without my sign-off, I want to know by lunch. Adrian nodded. We have to set a meeting with Quebec for tomorrow, he said. We need to tell them we're clarifying the addendum, and we need to do it in French. He looked at the girl, but that's not your job. I like words, she said. I can help if my mom says yes. Adrian turned to the doorway. Myrtle stood there again, hesitant, as if good rooms sometimes pushed back. Her eyes flicked to Zoe, to the scarf in Adrian's hands. He held it out, embarrassed now, as if he had been caught reaching for something precious that wasn't his. Myrtle's mouth softened. She can help for a little, she said. We stay close. After my shift, we go home. Adrian nodded, grateful. From the hallway, there was a sound like rain inside, the speed of rumor. Victor walked past with 2 board members, talking low. He didn't look in. The plan was simple enough to tell a child. That made Adrian trust it. They would draft the French addendum themselves, with Sienna ensuring every term matched the English legal version. They would ask Quebec for a 48-hour extension because of the translator issue and the discrepancy in documents. They would not accuse anyone. They would only be precise. They would meet with Mark LeBlanc on a video call at 1600 the next afternoon and clarify the timeline. Friday's drop-dead submission stayed on the wall in red, 1700. Don't miss it. Imagine it like packing a box, Adrian told Zoe as they sat with 3 screens open. The city dried under a pale sun. Every clause is an item. If one isn't the right size, the lid won't close. Then the truck will not start, she said, and cargo gets cold. Exactly, he said. There was warmth in his voice he didn't plan, he didn't mind. He called Myrtle's phone. She answered on speaker, breathless. I am here, she said. You could hear the wheels of the mop bucket somewhere behind her, the rubber drag like a seal. We want to work a little longer, he said. Just in the office. Can Zoe stay with me until you finish? I will have someone walk you both down after, and I will get her home. There was a pause. You are the boss, Myrtle said slowly. You do not need to ask me. I do, he said. It matters. Another pause. Something like gratitude moved through the phone line like light through a curtain. Then yes, she said, she will stay. Promise. Zae murmured from beside him without looking up, her finger trailing down a column of French verbs. Promise, he said again, a faint smile in his voice. Again with the promise, Myril said, but there was a smile in hers too. They worked until after 2. Sienna brought them sandwiches and fruit in the paper boats the cafeteria used. Zae told them about her school library where the French dictionaries were heavy like good doors. She told them how her teacher said every accent on a letter was a hat that kept a word from catching a cold. Adrian found himself laughing quietly, not because it was cute, but because it held truth he recognized. It was almost 3 when the first tremor reached them. Sienna's phone lit. She frowned and handed it to Adrian. From Victor Lang's subject, child in boardroom Evelyn, urgent, the CEO involved a minor in a sensitive call with provincial officials. Perhaps a lapse in judgment that suggests broader issues. HR looped, media exposure risk. Adrian felt his face empty of heat. It has begun, Sienna said. She was right. HR sent a text requesting a quick touch point. Corporate communications pinged. A blogger had tweeted that North Star was playing with kids in the big leagues, though how he knew was a mystery with a smirk. Adrian looked at Zae, who was oblivious to Twitter and reading a list of terms aloud in a soft rhythm like a song. Refroidissement, transit, dépôt, horaires serrés. He felt his jaw set. It felt like a door he had not shut in a long time swinging back on its hinges into a wind. We will keep doing the work, he said, and we will keep her safe. On his desk, the red scarf held the curve of her wrist. He touched it and told himself it was to move it to a safer neatness, not because he liked the way its weight felt like an anchor. By 6 that evening, the rain had long stopped and the city had lit up in small squares that looked like calendars. Adrian sent an email to Evelyn, the board chair, ahead of her reading Victor's. Subject, translator failure, update and corrective actions. He kept it short and simple. Their translator had canceled last minute due to a family medical emergency. A building employee's bilingual child had, with the mother present, translated the first 10 minutes while they reset. They had secured a call with Mr. Leblanc tomorrow to clarify the French addendum. Corrective plan attached. He took responsibility. He hovered over send and then clicked. The small whoosh felt smaller than usual. Down the hall, Victor's office light was on. He stood in the doorway, tablet in hand. He did not look up. At 18:10, Zae packed the dictionaries into neat stacks like boxes in the back of a truck. He walked them down to the lobby where evening air tasted like wet stone. He waited while Myril signed out. He ordered them a car, not because the TTC wasn't safe, but because a day like this had earned quiet. Tomorrow, Zae said, buckling in, we will fix the hats on the words. We will, he said. Wear your scarf, it is brave. She lifted it and made it flap. It is, she said. Victor stepped out of the building into the cool. He watched the car pull away, eyes narrowed like he was measuring it. Morning at North Star had a whistle to it. Trucks came and went. Elevator doors yawned and closed. The day threw its shoulders back, ready to carry something heavy. At 1020, Sienna came in with printouts and a face that told Adrian she had news she didn't love sharing. Server logs show a French revision sent to Mr. Leblanc's office at 22:37 last night, she said. From an external email that looks like a generic translation service, it used an alias that does not match our vendors. The PDF title is RFP Amend 3 Final, that final, you know, Adrian swore under his breath. The watermark, Redwood's contractor, she said tight. We use them for other projects sometimes, but not this one. I did not authorize. The timestamp is out of Toronto business hours. The IP traces to a downtown hotel, and the body of the email references a contract code that Victor used in a board memo last week. Adrian felt heat again. He thought of Zae's finger tracing hats on words. He thought of the hat that kept a word from catching cold. He looked down at his phone. It buzzed. From Marc Leblanc, subject, réception de l'amendement, merci pour l'amendement reçu hirer, news avons noté des incohérences. Vuilla's clarifier CET après midi, 16H, news attendance. Sienna read over his shoulder. He thinks our house sent it. We'll clarify, Adrian said. We'll ask for the 48-hour extension. And we'll be boring, precise. Boring saves companies, Sienna said. He smiled for a second. And children, he said without meaning to. At noon, HR sent a calendar invite titled Concerns. Corporate Communications texted, press has wind of a kid translator. Prepare statement. He did not prepare a statement. He made hot cocoa in the pantry and went to the lobby to find Zae and Myril. Myril looked paler. She had one hand pressed against her side as if holding a pain down. "You okay?" he asked. "Long week," she said. "I am fine." Zae took the cocoa and looked up at him. "You look like the truck is too full," she said. "It might be," he said, then he smiled. "But I drive good." She laughed. "That is not correct," she said. "You drive well." He put a hand to his heart. "I stand corrected." They went upstairs. At 15:50, as they gathered by the console for the call with Mr. Leblanc, Victor swung in with his tablet and an entourage of concern. "I've prepared a summary," he said smoothly. "We can lead with our strength in Ontario." "And we should not mention yesterday." Adrian looked at him. "We will mention everything," he said, "because this is a government contract and truth is cheaper than a fine." Victor's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Be careful," he said, voice hushed. "Board is watching." "Good," Adrian said. The console light turned red at exactly 1600. A square on the screen brightened, and a man with graying hair and kind lines around his mouth appeared. He was in a wood-paneled office that looked like it had history and warm coffee smells. "Monsieur Park," he said. "Bonjour." "Bonjour, Monsieur Leblanc," Adrian said. He introduced Sienna, then looked at Zae, who stood on a low stool from the pantry because the table was built for tall adults. "This is Zae," he said, and met Mr. Leblanc's eyes without moving. "Our translator had a family emergency. Yesterday, we had unexpected help. I asked her mother, who works in our building, for permission to let Zae translate for the first minutes until we could steady. It was unorthodox, but it avoided wasting your time." Victor coughed. The board chair, Evelyn, who had joined the video call with her camera off, typed something in the chat that Adrian did not read. Marc Leblanc smiled. "Bonjour, Zae," he said, switching to French and softening his voice the way people do for children and for truth. "Merci pour hirer." Zae looked down at her scarf and then up. "Bonjour, monsieur," she said. "Je suis content d'être les mots imant quand on les met à leur place." Words like to be put in their place. He chuckled, then sobered. "We received an amendment last night," he said. "We saw differences we would like to understand." "We did not send that," Adrian said. He kept his voice level. "We noticed a discrepancy between the printed binder in our office and the official documents. We hired an independent reviewer," he nodded at Sienna, "and found that a vendor we did not authorize was used after hours. We have prepared the correct version with French terms aligned to the English legal text." "May I hear from the young lady?" The official looked at Zae again. "Sometimes people will stop explaining to be polite. I prefer to understand." Zae rested her hands on the table like she had seen adults do when they wanted to be steady. She spoke in French, careful and clean. "Yesterday, the numbers were not in order," she said. "We saw that the hats on the letter E, less accents, were missing. In our class, Madam says a hat is important. Chef is not the same as chi if you take away the hat, so daylight is not delay. In the paper from the printer with the R, the hats were gone and the articles changed. Here," she put her finger on the clause in front of the camera, "it says deliver by 2 days. In the other, it looked like 6. That is not fair. It makes you think we are late when we are not." A silence you could build a bridge on filled the room. "Merci," Mark said finally. "That is clear." Victor leaned into his mic. "We can commit to any timeline within reason," he said. "Our resources are flexible." "Wait," Adrian said. He raised his hand. He felt the word as a small good weight. "Before we talk about flexibility, I need to say something. A file went to your office last night from a source we did not authorize. We are investigating internally. I ask that you consider a 48-hour extension to Friday at 5 to allow us to submit the corrected French addendum. We are taking steps to ensure the integrity of our process." Victor looked like he bit his tongue hard enough to taste iron. Evelyn's camera blinked on. Her face was composed. "Mr. Leblanc, please know our board insists on compliance. We will be transparent. This is why we have governance." Sienna typed in the chat and then said aloud, "We have server logs and printer signatures to share by end of day." Marc Leblanc leaned back in his chair. He was quiet for a moment, eyes on the child and then on the CEO who had chosen to let the child speak. "Nous voulons des partenaires qui disent la vérité," he said. "We want partners who tell the truth." "Extension accordée. Friday at 1700 Eastern. Send me the corrected version and your logs, and Monsieur Park." "Yes," Adrian said. "Tell your translator," Mark said, smiling. "She is very brave." Zae nodded. "Say Monacharp," she said. "It is my scarf." They ended the call. Adrian lifted his head slowly, as if he had been underwater and had found air. Good, Sienna said softly. Victor's smile did something hard and brittle. It didn't break, but it looked like it wanted to. Adrian, he said, you and I need to talk. The talk did not wait. It arrived like a cold wind. At 18:30, Evelyn requested an emergency board session. The subject line glowed in Adrian's inbox like a lighthouse warning in bad weather. He walked into the boardroom, and the glass walls reflected a man who looked tired but not scared in the same stupid way he had been scared yesterday. Victor began before anyone else. Our governance requires we suspend the CEO pending an internal audit, he said. His tone was grave, like a doctor delivering polite bad news. Involving a child, unknown risk vectors, unauthorized communications to a government official, without prejudice, of course. Adrian looked at Evelyn. I asked permission from her mother, he said. I kept her safe, she helped, we disclosed, we're correcting the file. Perception, Victor said, and let the word hang like a noose. Perception, Adrian repeated. He looked down at the scarf beside his hand. He knotted its edge around his wrist because he could think better when something solid held him. Then he did something he had not done in 6 years of being CEO. He put the company after a person in a sentence and let the sentence stand. If keeping a child safe while she helps with words we made complicated is a fireable offense, he said, steady, I'll accept suspension, but I will not apologize for protecting her. Evelyn watched him. Her eyes were not cruel, they were assessing. She had been in rooms like this 1,000 times. Victor is right about process, she said after a moment. But Mr. LeBlanc granted an extension. That counts for something. Victor stepped sideways. We can appoint interim leadership during the audit. In the meantime, I have arranged a meeting with Redwood for Monday morning, just to be ready. Sienna spoke quietly from her corner. That would signal to the market that we are moving toward a sale because of instability. It creates the instability. Victor looked at her as if she were an interesting math problem. He didn't answer. A buzzer sounded from the front desk. Security asked for Adrian. There's a situation in the lobby, the guard said. The cleaning staff lady, Miss Baptiste, collapsed. The paramedics are on the way. The room turned. Adrian ran. In the lobby, Myril lay on the marble, pale and still, a small dark halo of hair spread like ink. Zoe knelt beside her, the red scarf bunched in her hands, eyes wide but dry. I told her to sit before, she didn't, Zoe said. She said it was busy, her face got white like paper. The paramedics lifted her gently. One took her pulse. She's dehydrated, he said. Her iron is low, we'll take her for monitoring. Adrian looked at Zoe. The little hand clutched the scarf. The elevator dinged. Victor stood across the lobby, staring, the picture of a man waiting for a cab that was late. He lifted his phone and then put it down. Adrian's chest hurt in the good old way that meant he could feel, and he let it. I'll go with you, he said to Zoe. To the hospital. Promise, she said, and the third time wasn't cute, it was a gate. Promise, he said. The hospital was bright and humming. Machines beeped softly in perfect time with things that mattered. The emergency doctor, hair tied back tight, explained with straight words. Miss Baptiste is anemic, she said. She needs rest and treatment. She likely needs a few days off her feet. We'll check for other causes, but for now we hydrate, we watch, we let the body tell us its story. Zoe sat in a plastic chair that fit her legs too well. She held a styrofoam cup of cocoa that Adrian had bought from a vending machine with a flickering light. It tasted like sugar and heat. Will she die? She asked. She said it plainly. She knew what it could mean to ask and didn't shy. No, Adrian said, because the head doctor had not used that word and he had learned to only use words he owned. She needs a break. She is strong. Zoe nodded. She wrapped the scarf twice around her like armor. Then she looked at his wrist where the end of the scarf still knotted. She reached out and tightened it. So you don't forget, she said. He sat beside her and listened to the machines. He remembered how bad hospitals smelled when grief was active. Today, they smelled like disinfectant and quiet people doing good work. He let that be the truth. His phone buzzed again. Sienna. Evelyn moved to suspend you pending audit. Victor is pushing Redwood Monday. We need receipts. He typed back with one hand. Send what you have. Printer logs, server headers. We'll add more. I'm at St. Michael's with Zoe and her mom. Another ping. Sienna again. Zoe recorded something. Check your voice memo. He opened the app. There, labeled in the default way, was a file named with the date, 2025-0305, and the time, 14:17. He pressed play. Noise, a room's edges, footsteps, then Victor's voice, softer than he used in the boardroom, in French. Oui, avances chance, he said. Sa doit tamer vendredi sinon se mort. Envoyez la version avec le six. On dira que c'est une confusion, Renee a redwood s'occupe du reste. Yes, move the deadline, it must drop Friday or it's dead. Send the version with the six, we'll say it's a confusion, Renee at Redwood will take care of the rest. A second voice responded, also in French. On l'envoi du Centerville. On masque Elip. We'll send it from downtown, we'll mask the IP. He stopped the recording. His mouth was dry again, but not from fear, from anger, the kind that meant he was awake. He looked at Zoe. You recorded this. I dropped your phone and it made a sound, she said. Then I heard him. He was in the small meeting room by the printer. He speaks like the French movies, I thought you should know. You were right, he said. He sent the file to Sienna. He typed a caption that was 2 words, our receipt. The doctor came back with papers. Miss Baptiste is resting, she said. She should have someone with her tonight. We'll discharge her in a few hours with instructions. Adrian faced something that he had not faced in his adult life since his wife died. He wanted to take care of someone, and not because they worked for him or because a report said he should. He wanted to because he wanted to. He looked at Zoe. Does your mom have family to be with her tonight? My auntie can come, she said. She lives in Scarborough. She has 2 kids. She works nights. Adrian took a breath and that felt like new air. I have a guest room, he said. It is empty. You both can come for 2 nights if you want. Sienna can help with papers if we need them, only if you want. It is big, Zoe said. It is quiet, he said. He smiled. I need noisy. She looked at the scarf at the hospital bed down the hall at his face. Her eyes were steady. We will ask my mom, she said. We do not go without asking. Good, he said. We'll ask. Morning came with bright sun and cold that made your lungs sting in a clean way. Sienna arrived at the office first. Adrian came with Zoe after dropping Myril at their apartment with her aunt, who looked at him like a man and not like a CEO and said thank you with a nod that made him stand straighter. Sienna placed printouts on the table like cards in a game you could win if you had the right ones. Printer log, she said. The Redwood contractor's watermark matches the fake addendum. The time stamp on the print job is 0213 a.m. Our building's security logs show Victor's keycard used at 0209 to access the 4th floor copy room. She slid another sheet. Email headers from the message to Mr. LeBlanc last night have the unique identifier for an email account created 3 weeks ago using Victor's pattern for account names. And this, she placed Adrian's phone on the table, the voice memo. Adrian felt a clarity that replaced panic. It was simple, it was ugly, it was enough. Board in 45 minutes, Sienna said. We'll do this in the boardroom with cameras. I advise we invite Mr. LeBlanc to watch. Transparency is insurance. Adrian nodded. He looked at Zoe. You don't have to be there, he said. She tilted her head. You will speak fast when you are angry, she said. Let me sit where you can see me, then you can remember to breathe. He smiled. Okay, he said. Sit in the same chair. And you can hold the scarf, she said. It is allowed. He put the scarf around his wrist again. He didn't check if it looked ridiculous. It looked like what it was. The boardroom was full by the time they walked in. Cameras were set up for an internal stream, a concession to stakeholder transparency that the market liked. You could feel the phones in people's pockets like extra hearts. Evelyn sat at the head. Her face had the set of someone who wanted a story to end with less blood than it might require. Victor sat to her right, his suit crisp, his expression confident, the kind of calm you get when you're sure your side will be the one history calls correct. Adrian placed the red scarf on the table in front of him. He saw the glances, the small smiles of mockery some men can't help when they see a talisman they don't respect. He didn't mind. He might have yesterday. We're recording, said the IT guy who always looked a little apologetic for being necessary. Good, said Sienna, betraying no nerves. We will present an internal update on the Quebec RFP situation. Victor leaned forward. First, he said, I want to reiterate that our risk tolerance cannot bend to sentimentality. Mr. Park, your choices? Stop, said Adrian. He didn't raise his voice. He could have. He didn't. He set a stack of printouts in front of him and breathed in. You sent an unauthorized revision to Mr. LeBlanc's office last night using a vendor we did not approve, he said to Victor. He turned the first printout to face the table. The room's air changed. Victor laughed, soft and clipped. This is insane, he said. Conspiracy, you're panicking, Adrian. I told you not to bring a child into we have logs, Sienna said calmly. Printer signatures, email headers, and a recording. Victor's eyes widened a fraction. It was the first genuine thing they had done in days. A recording, he said. Sienna pressed play. Victor's voice filled the room in French, quiet and clear. Oui, avances les chances, sa doit tamer vendredi sinon c'est mort, envoyez la version avec le six, on dira que c'est une confusion, René a redwood s occupe du reste, and the other voice on l'envoi du Centerville, on masque Elip. No one spoke for 3 seconds that felt like a page turning slowly, loudly. Victor recovered. He spoke to the room, not to the truth. This could be AI, he said, a deepfake. We need to be careful. The printer logs and the security card do not deepfake, Sienna said. She placed the security log on the table. 0209, Victor Lang. Copy room, 4th floor. Victor turned to Evelyn. This is a setup, he said. His voice rose a hair. The CEO is desperate. He knows the company must be sold. He is using a child. Evelyn raised her hand. The board quieted. Mr. Lang, she said. Her voice was even. We will conclude this meeting with next steps. But first, I invited Mr. Leblanc to join us. The screen brightened. Mark Leblanc's face appeared, eyebrows slightly lifted like a man on a porch watching a thunderstorm reach the trees. I heard the memo, he said. In any language it says the same thing. We do not work with partners who do this. Victor looked for his coat and could not find it. He stood. You don't have the authority, he said to Evelyn, to do what you're about to do. She did not look away. You are relieved of duty pending termination for cause, she said. Security will escort you out. Legal will be in touch. 2 security personnel who looked like they preferred quiet days stepped forward. Victor said nothing else. He looked at Adrian like he had eaten something bitter. He left. Adrian exhaled. It wasn't victory, it was something else, something quieter. Like finally hearing a word you knew years ago and had lost. He turned to the camera. Mr. Leblanc, he said, we have the correct addendum. We will deliver it at 16:52 today. You have my word. You have my address, Mark said, a small smile. We'll be watching. The call ended. The cameras stayed on because the IT guy's hands shook and he hit the delay. It didn't matter. There was nothing left to hide. Adrian turned to the stack of pages, to the file on his screen that had been read by 3 people more times than any legal file had a right to be read. He pressed send at 16:52 and watched the tiny bar move across the screen like a small miracle that depended on electricity and honest work. The sent notice popped up. At 17:06, an email came back. Subject, North Star RFP submission, reçu et conforme merci, reçu et temps, votre addendum est conforme. Evaluation continue. Prochaine tape, avis préliminaire domaine 10H. He read it twice. He closed his eyes. Zoe slipped her hand into his. It fit. He opened his eyes and smiled. It wasn't a big smile. It was the kind that's real. They did not pop champagne. They went to the hospital. Myril was sitting up in her bed, pale but with a blush like she had remembered her own blood. Her aunt sat by the window, knitting with bright yellow yarn. The room smelled like hand soap and hope. Adrian stood at the foot of the bed and said the words you say when you want to be simple and true. Your daughter saved my company, he said. Myril looked at Zoe, at the scarf around her neck like a small flag, and then at Adrian. She saves me every day, she said. Now she will be tired. She needs sleep and breakfast tomorrow that is eggs. I can make eggs, he said. You can, Zoe asked. You drive well and you make eggs. You are like 3 people. I am trying, he said. He turned to Myril. I want to ask something. In front of Sienna, who is our lawyer, and Mrs. Patel, who is a social worker from St. Michael's. We can arrange an emergency caregiver consent for this week. If you agree, I can take Zay to school. I can pick her up. If you need to rest, she can stay in the guest room, no pressure. If you say no, we find another way. Sienna stepped forward, quiet, competent. Mrs. Patel, who had joined them from the nurses' station with a warm smile and a clipboard, nodded. We want to make sure support is legal and clear, she said, and that you don't feel pressured. Myril listened. She did not cry, she did not apologize. She took the form and read each line. When she asked a question, she waited until it was answered properly. She looked at her sister. The aunt nodded, the yellow yarn looping like a patient son. Myril signed. Only for this week, she said, because I will get strong. Only for this week, Adrian said, because you are strong. Zoe watched them. She touched the scarf and then untied it. She looped it around Adrian's wrist and tied a knot that only small, strong hands can tie without hurting. So you remember to drive well and breathe, she said. I will, he said. They named the scholarship fund a week later because Sienna said you shouldn't wait when you're making promises public. the North Star Promise Scholarship. For children of employees, for language classes, for anything that made words easier. They set up a fund for emergency caregiver support, too, with a simple form and a number you could text when your body said stop. They made it easy. That was the rule. The board voted to keep the company independent. The market did what it always did, jumped, dipped, stabilized when steady truths held. Victor's name fell out of their mouths like something you say when you remember being sick but are not anymore. The authorities took his case. On a bright Friday 2 weeks later, the first trucks rolled out of the distribution center with a new blue sticker in French that had its hats in all the right places. The sticker said, Livrée Censura, safe delivery. The drivers honked because they knew how to celebrate without instructions. Adrian stood in the loading bay with a bell rope in one hand and a red thread tied around his wrist. Zoe stood on a box so she could reach the rope with him. Myril stood with a cane she didn't really need but liked. The crew gathered. Someone from corporate communications had a camera but didn't pose them. That was good. You ready? Adrian asked. Zoe grinned. The red scarf hung loose today because it was not a day for tightness. She looked up at him and then out at the trucks lined like patient elephants. You lost your words, she said, echoing without knowing she was making a perfect circle. You can borrow mine. He laughed, real enough to make his eyes smart. Thank you, he said. They rang the bell. It was not loud. It was enough. The trucks moved. Mark LeBlanc sent a photo by text later that morning from Quebec City. A pharmacist with gray hair and gentle hands stood in a small shop with boxes labeled North Star on a clean floor that smelled like lavender and math. He wrote, arrived on time. Merci. Adrian forwarded it to Sienna, to Evelyn, to the crew. He sent it to Myril. He put his phone away and stood for a minute by the loading bay and let the day wash over him. He did not look at the clock. Zoe pranced in circles, then stopped and spun. She lifted her chin. Can the scholarship buy more hats for words? She asked. He knew what she meant. He played along. Yes, he said, we will buy hats for all the words that need them. She nodded, satisfied. She looked at his wrist. You can keep the scarf, she said. We will make another one. You sure? He said. She nodded again. We have more thread at home, she said. And we have time. He did not point out that time was the rarest thing anybody had. He did not say he had wasted some of his and wanted it back. He did not make a speech. He just stood and felt the day and let it be. At the edge of the loading bay, the ant in yellow yarn waved. The light hit the thread and made it spark. The city did what it always did. It moved, but now it moved in a way that included a small girl's voice, a scarf, and the word promise that had learned to be a thing, not a sound. Moral takeaway: courage isn't loud, it is clear and precise. When you choose truth and protect the small, you build a family and a future that can carry real weight.